Okay, just one more of 1,000 recent videos on YouTube on retractable nib fountain pens, plus a Sharpie. I don't know if I have anything original to say. You decide. This past year really seems to have become the year of the capless or retractable pen or vanishing point pen. And my introduction actually was 25 years ago. And as you can see, I haven't been immune to this latest trend. Up until the last couple of months, this was the only retractable pen that I had. And I've had this for 20 or 25 years. This is not the Pilot Vanishing Point. It's earlier than that. It's the Namiki Vanishing Point. Pilot's luxury brand. Sort of the Lexus to Toyota, or Acura to Honda. It's the Infinity to Nissan. So I've had this a very long time, as I just indicated, but didn't use it that much. Wasn't that enamored of the whole concept of a retractable nib pen, because I like to see my nibs, and that's one of the things I really enjoy about fountain pens as well. Gorgeous, large, luscious nib. However, when this new trend started, somewhere like a year ago or so, I happened to open an old box of items that I would take to fountain pen shows. And it would be signage or tape or ink. And I had a bunch of these retractable point Sharpies. And I hadn't used this in at least a decade. And I said, what the hell, let me see when it dried out or how badly it dried out. And to my amazement, it wrote instantly and brilliantly. And I'll do a close-up of some of these in a moment, but it really convinced me that a pen with a little door that's opened by a knock at the other end can do a fantastic job in preserving ink flow and preventing dry out, like I really had never considered before. So these are the ones that I've acquired recently from Mahjong or Moonman, and also Jinhao. And there are others that I don't have and probably won't get. The Moonman A3 interests me, but I think I've satisfied my acquisition lust for the moment. So let me see if I can adjust this. Yeah, let's get a little closer. There we go. And first take a look at the Namiki. Again, I've had this for 20, 25 years. And There's that beautiful nib coming out. Beautiful only in function, not in appearance, at least to me. And this one happens to be a medium, and it's a 14K gold. And since I just mentioned it, here's the Sharpie. And its point and little opening door. And let me see. So the Pilot or Namiki Vanishing Point, plastic body, 16 or 18 sides on the body. I'll have to count them again. I probably made a note somewhere of how many sided the pen was. A little bit different from its later iterations, which I don't possess. Many of you do. That has the pinched section in the clip. This clip is all of a piece with the section. And to jump around for a second, one of the more recent pens I got was the Moonman A2, which is basically largely a reproduction of the original Namiki. Has that same 16 or 18 facets in the plastic material of the barrel. But as you can see, the clips are a bit different as the Moonman. I'm going to refer to it from now on as a Moonman, not as a Mahjong, because it's imprinted with Moonman somewhere. There we go. And the odd thing about this is how the clip is offset from the nib and the little door. The clip here, as you can see, if I keep it in this position, and I'm sorry for the focus going in and out, it's offset. It doesn't affect the writing at all, but that's odd. Every other pen that I've acquired recently has the clip where it should be. Anyway, just thought I would mention that as I noticed it. So these are quite similar, but not exactly the same. The two original editions for me were both Mahjong A1s, or Moonman A1s. See, I didn't even listen to myself about what I was going to call these. This was the first one that I got, the all black. And an improvement they made, I think, to the Namiki or Pilot is many people objected to this whole design because of the clip being right where you grasp the section in the pen to write with. And here you see that little pinched clip that I mentioned that the original Vanishing Point did not have. And this was to address partially that fact that this is where you held the pen. And many people never liked the Vanishing Point or any of these retractable pens because of the position of the clip. So what Moonman did, which I thought was really brilliant, is they brought out a clipless version, but with a roll stop on the barrel itself, so that you could lay it on a desk or a table and it would stop the rolling, hence the name. The rolling that would occur, possibly, on the other pens, but would be stopped either by the clip or even the facets of the barrel of either the Namiki Vanishing Point or the Moonman A2. So after getting the black one, I purchased the orange one, or yellow one. It really looks, it's more orange than yellow. And this again, like the black one, I know there's so many different models, and I don't have all of them, is the Moonman A1. These are metal pens, as opposed to the original Namiki Vanishing Point and the Moonman A2, which attempts to recreate it to a large extent. And very nice feel in the hand. Then Jinhao, as is their wont, came out with their own version and in a number of ways improved it and dropped the price compared to anything else substantially. So this is the Jinhao J10, which I purchased this year. The Jinhaos I purchased in 2025. And I love the feel of this version, and it has a straight clip. And what I like most about it is the feel of the knock. It just feels more solid to me. Really enjoy it in comparison to the Moonmans or even the Namiki. So this was the first one I purchased. They have all sorts of colors and patterns now. And I just received my 2 new ones that I really liked. And this has a finish that's has gradations in the coloring. They may have called this coffee, I don't recall. But again, that really nice knock action. And the gold fluted, which has many more flutes than 16 or 18. I mentioned with the original Namiki and the Moonman A2. So let's get out a macro and we'll take a more distant view of these pens. All right, I'm going to see if I can do some writing on the camera, even though I have to reach around the tripod. I've still not found a perfect way to do videotaping, but let's see what we can do. So Let's get some close up here and adjust the camera angle here. So the first one we're going to look at is my old workhorse, the Namiki Vanishing Point from 20 or 25 years ago with an M, and that's a 14K gold nib. And let's see what we can do here. Excuse me, fellow. Had to move one of the Xi'an warriors out of the way. So this is the broadest nib of the pens that I have. All the others are fine or extra fine. They haven't come out with mediums yet that I have found on these new iterations of the Vanishing Point from Moonman and Jinhao. Line variation is really non-existent, but I like the thickness and width of the line that this lays down. And one thing I wanted to point out was that the notch here fits into the cutout and rests there until the spring is engaged. With the Moonmans, you'll find that the spring forces the notch out, and you have to manipulate a bit to get it into the cutout. All of these have very small ink reservoirs. This is the typical Pilot or Namiki one. And that's that. I really like writing with this pen now that I've resurrected it from disuse after all these years. Next we'll go to the Moonman A2, which is an attempt really with its faceted sides and its plastic construction, the pen most like the original Namiki. And let's see. So yeah, as soon as you undo this, the nib unit and reservoir spring out. You have to push in and hold it with your finger, or just quickly screw on the bottom section. And again, this was the one that had the unaligned clip. But this has performed well. This is an extra fine. No line variation really with pressure. So you can see quite a difference between an extra fine nib and a medium nib. Next up, oh my God, we have to move you guys again. You're in the way. You'd think after 5,000 years you'd know how to behave. The next one up is the Moonman A1. And I like the, no, what am I doing? Yes. Okay, so the A2 was purchased in 2025. Excuse the disjointed nature of this looking around the camera and trying to reach around the tripod. Life is tough. So this Moonman A1, also with an extra fine steel nib, I purchased in 2024. And that's not the one that I should be pulling out. It's the orange one. So that's this, which is a very lovely pen. And as with the other Moonmans, the spring presses the notch out of the cutout. And this is the, well, I'm not going to force the ink reservoir out. It doesn't want to come out easily for some reason, and I don't want to knock everything over as I try and get it out. So this is the extra fine steel nib. Let me see if I can adjust this. Okay. And then go back. Sorry if I'm making you nauseous. The adjustment on this camera is on the screen itself, so you have to make good contact with your finger in order to adjust things. And this has that slightly notched clip for your fingertips, as do the modern Pilot Vanishing Points. Okay, so where are we? Orange. This has been a good performer for me since 2024. Quite smooth. I don't think we're going to get any line variation with any of these. And then next up is another Moonman A1. But this is the one sans clip and with a roll stop on the outside, which I thought was a very nice improvement that Moonman made when they came out with this pen. So also good performer. Zero line variation. So those are the first four. Now we're coming to the Jinhaos. And I really, let me see. These are all purchased in 2025. I really like the feel of the Jinhaos. They just feel very solid to me. I really like the knocks. I like the color variations and designs that they've come out with. I like the fact that the notch, it's not being pushed out by the spring, as with the Moonmans. And I kind of like how they write, except that they often don't. The ink flow, and I've made some adjustments to the nibs, is just not as good as the Moonmans, and certainly not as as good as the Namiki with the 14K nib. So you can see the ink flow is just not keeping up. You've got some real gaps in the lines here. Even after just filling the pens, I experienced this. The next one was this gorgeous finish, which most Chinese dealers refer to as gradient coffee. Really, really gorgeous. I just refilled this with ink and nothing. So, how do you like this line variation? I can play with it for a while and I'll get some decent writing out of it, but this is really ridiculous. And I'm making this video before I've figured out exactly how to correct this. Now, this may be a whole blob of ink that comes out because I just refilled it. So the ink is there at the end. There's captured air behind the ink. I'm going to push this in. It's probably going to push ink out. Let me do it slowly. I'm going to turn the converter a little bit, see if that makes a difference. Okay, ink came to the feed and the nib. Let's see if we get any functional writing with this pen. Oh, that's great. So ink went all the way to the tip and nothing. I've seen some other YouTube videos where other YouTubers have had poor experience with ink flow with the Jinhaos. I've really got to work on this and see what is what. It was working the other night. And then here we have the brushed matte gold. Very attractive. And wow, you can actually see something. Terrible. But, and this was also just refilled. Unbelievable. Let me go through the same process of expressing a little bit of ink to the nib. Well, these are great to look at. Yeah. I mean, the white one was working okay, so I have to, not great, but okay. So I have to determine why I'm getting ink flow from the white one, which is the one I purchased first, and nada with these two models. One possible factor is that I used in these two, I used this ink from China. And that may be the culprit or one of the culprits. So I'm going to have to change ink. See if we can get these pens to write. But that's... I'm not going to do that now. And then probably the best writer of all of them is this 10 or 15-year-old Sharpie. It just... how's that for a line? And I have several of these in different colors, which I used at pen shows. And again, well, there's not going to be any line variation, of course, for this. It's not a fountain pen. And they've all worked instantly after pressing on their nocks. So I can't knock this Sharpie. And that's about it for this video. And so my feeling is the most reliable and the one I enjoy the most, next to the Sharpie, but among the fountain pens, is the original Namiki Vanishing Point. 14K gold nib in medium, and it just always works flawlessly. The flow is terrific. The 3 Moonmans, my dislike is that they're all extra fine nibs, but they function as they should. And I'll have to get some fine and hopefully eventually medium nibs for them to make it hopefully as pleasurable as an experience as writing with the Namiki. Then we come to the Jinhaos. I really love the feel in hand of the Jinhaos. I love it just feels solidly built compared to the other pens. And when you use the knock, it just feels well engineered. Unfortunately, the nib end doesn't seem to be well engineered. The white one is okay. The 2 recent ones, as I've demonstrated, are at this point useless. So perhaps I'll do an addendum at some point to this video if I find that the ink was the main culprit in these latter 2 Jinhaos, or if it's a deeper problem with the pen design itself. That is it for now. Thanks much for watching. A real brief addendum. As I finished the recording of the video, I wanted to take a look further at these Jinhao pens, and I realized I failed to mention that all 3 have fine nibs. The Moonmans are extra fine. The Namiki Vanishing Point is a medium, but these are fine nibs. So again, the white writes. I was looking at the nib, and what do you know? The Gradient Coffee writes, even with that Chinese ink. So it's not the Chinese ink per se, because that now functions within the last minute or 2. This one, really nothing. I mean, barely anything. So this and the gradient coffee had the same experiences of being refilled, having some ink expressed to their tips, as you saw with the tissue paper. And a couple minutes passed. This one now writes. And this one still don't. So we have to explore further. Thanks. Bye again. Okay, my second addendum to this video. So now I have addenda. Cleaned out the pens of the Chinese ink that I showed you. Put in some Levanger cocoa. And writing like champs. There's a bit of variation between the two pens and the two nibs. They're both fine. The one in the gold pen is deeper and darker. In the gradient coffee, it's a little bit lighter. It's getting a little darker now. I think there might have been some residual water from cleaning out. So the end results, they now work fine. Literally fine. Okay, hopefully the last addendum to this too long video.